Greetings, fellow Rotarians and guests. My name is Joe Young, and it's my honor to serve as the 2020-2021 President of the Rotary Club of Columbus. Founded in 1915 with our first meeting in February of 1916, our club is one of the oldest and largest within Rotary International. Our membership includes a diverse set of leaders within business, city government, military affairs, healthcare, education, arts and culture, social services, and ministry, all sharing a common desire to improve our community and have a positive impact on the world around us. The world needs Rotary and the ideals that we represent now more than ever. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically changed the way we live, work, and interact with one another. School-aged children that were already struggling with food insecurity and educational development are falling further behind. Recent acts of violence perpetrated against our African American brothers and sisters have further highlighted the fact that systemic racism continues to plague our nation. Political division and social unrest continue unabated. The world needs our leadership. And while these are extremely difficult challenges to overcome, Rotary is well positioned to be part of the solution. I long for the day when it will be safe for us to meet and fellowship again in person. Until then, please keep wearing your mask, please keep loving each other, and please keep serving others above yourselves. On behalf of my wife Vicki and our daughters Katie and Lynn, I want to thank you for all that you are doing to make our community a better place to live. It's my pleasure to serve alongside you. Now let's get to work. Greetings and welcome to the July 29th meeting of the Rotary Club of Columbus. Whether you're joining us as a member or as a guest, we're so glad to have you with us. We are going to start our meeting with a video of the Pledge of Allegiance that's being done by William Brannan, a son of Rotarian Joseph Brannan.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
William, thank you so much. That was a nice assist from your mom, Emily, as well. Thank you guys for leading the pledge for us. It's our club's custom and tradition to recognize a soldier from Fort Benning each week during our meetings for their service and sacrifice. I'm pleased to call on Rotarian Pete Jones to introduce this week's honoree.
President Joe, fellow Rotarians, I'm Brigadier General Retired Peter Jones, President and CEO of the National Infantry Museum. As you can see, we're in a darkened museum, but we got lights. But more importantly, we're standing next to a Bradley fighting vehicle here at the end of our 100 yards walk. And that's because we have Sergeant First Class Alvaro Velasquez, who is a 91 Mike, a Bradley system mechanic, who has served multiple times in Iraq and Afghanistan. But more importantly, he served with 2-2 Infantry in the Second Battle of Fallujah, where the Bradleys played a key role in that fight. Interesting enough, Sergeant Velasquez was born in Peru, but joined the United States Army in 2000 and to serve our nation. So he's coming up on 20 years and has a very unique career that he has been a recovery operator all the way up to a maintenance team chief. But because of his language capabilities and his ability to really teach, he now serves there in the Roy Benavides School NCO Academy here at the Western Hemisphere Institute for National Security, also known as WINSEC, here at Fort Benning. And he's served in that role for 2 years. He's married, has 3 kids, but has served phenomenally for 20 years and is getting ready to do a permanent change of station to Fort Bliss for his last assignment. We'd like to thank you and all your soldiers at Fort Benning, especially those at WINSEC, who helped build that partner capacity with our partners down in Latin and South America. And on behalf of the Rotary, I'd like to first add to your challenge coin collection. And then more importantly, hopefully as we open up our city and get past this COVID pandemic, you and Sandra, your beautiful spouse, can take advantage of 2 tickets to the River Center, 2 tickets to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Columbus State University Theater Productions, which are pretty awesome, the Springer, and you can bring everybody back here, especially the kids, and we'll take them down to the virtual reality simulator, and I'll see who gets to shoot best in the Velasquez family.
Thank you, sir.
So, Sergeant Velasquez, thank you for your service, and I'll let you talk to our fellow Rotarians.
What a great honor. Thank you so much to the Rotary Club for this recognition. This is very unique and special to me, so thank you on behalf of myself and my family.
Thanks again. We'll do the elbow bump.
Oh, thank you.
President Joe, back to you.
Sergeant Velasquez, thank you so much for your service and sacrifice for our country. We ask that you would extend our gratitude also to the other men and women that serve alongside you down at Fort Benning. We hope that you'll join us at a future time when we're meeting in person for lunch. We look forward to meeting you in person then at that time. Have a couple of announcements to share today for the club. I wanted to remind everybody that while we are still physically separated, we still have an opportunity to gather socially through various web-based platforms. We have tomorrow night an online happy hour that will be going from 6 to 8 p.m. Those are a lot of fun. They're even more fun the more people that we have. I'm not sure what our top count has been on those thus far, but somewhere you usually have about 20 to 25. I'd love to see that number go even higher and encourage you guys to tune into that. Also, every Monday night we have Rotary Poker. For those of you that are interested in playing poker, maybe you're semi-professional, maybe you're new to the game. This is for all skill levels. It's a friendly game. No money changes hands. And it's a great way to just interact and fellowship with other Rotarians. If you have interest in joining the poker game, please contact the office so that they can get you set up with the right equipment for that. Let's see. Also wanted to let you know to hold a date. Put Thursday, August the 20th on your calendars. Sometime that evening, we're going to have a special program that you'll want to be a part of, and we will provide more information later on. We're thinking about some socially distanced fellowship and looking forward to having an opportunity for everybody to get together again. So Thursday, August 20th, please hold that on your calendar. Now it's my pleasure to bring on Rotarian Marquette McKnight to introduce today's program.
Thank you, President Joe. It's my pleasure to introduce 2 of our own Rotarians and some of decidedly the best folks in our community. Ben Moser graduated with a BA in history from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and then earned his Juris Doctorate from New York Law School in 2004. He practiced law in New York for 7 years before returning to North Carolina and beginning his career with United Way. Prior to coming to Columbus, Ben served as the director of major gifts for the United Way of Asheville, North Carolina, and held several positions at the United Way of Forsyth County in Winston-Salem. Ben began his role as president and CEO of the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley last August, jumping immediately into his position and becoming an integral part of a partner in our community. His leadership has certainly been tested with during the spring and summer during this pandemic, and we are glad to have him in Columbus. Our other Rotarian speaker this morning is Betsy Covington, known to most of you. Since joining the Community Foundation in 2001, Betsy has worked alongside the board to enable and promote philanthropy that inspires, facilitates, and fosters a vibrant and engaged Chattahoochee Valley. Under her leadership, the Community Foundation has grown from $7 million in assets to over $190 million in assets. A native of Columbus, Betsy is a graduate of Vanderbilt University with a degree in communications. She currently serves on the executive committee of Home for Good, Columbus's 10-year plan to eliminate homelessness, and is the incoming chair of Columbus 2025, our area's comprehensive long-range planning effort. Both Rotarians, both leaders with a heart for helping people in our community. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Betsy Covington and Ben Moser.
Thanks so much, Marquette. We appreciate that great introduction and appreciate the chance to be with you guys today. This is still sort of all new to us as we do this virtually, but I'm hoping that we can share some things today with you that you will find inspiring, challenging, and hopefully even a little bit comforting in some areas. I'll tell you, Ben and I saw pretty early in this crisis that there would be a need for our organizations to work together to help our community respond philanthropically in a way that was efficient. That kind of partnership for the Community Foundation and United Way is not new, but I'll tell you, the ties are closer now than they've ever been before. There have been weeks of this when I think I've talked to Ben more often than I've talked to my husband, Rick. There's been a lot of back and forth. And I will tell you, nearly 20 years ago, when I joined the Community Foundation, our board told me, our organization was still very young then, and our board told me that to get things done in a community, you really need a strong Community Foundation, you need a strong United Way, and you need a strong Chamber of Commerce. Those are sort of the three organizations that can work together and be tools for a community to help government, individuals, businesses, and foundations move the needle. And so that's kind of the way I've proceeded over these years, and I'm grateful for strong United Way and strong Chamber leadership throughout all of this. Y'all may not know Ben yet, but I cannot wait for you to get to know him better. He fits right into this community and is a huge asset. And of course, you know that Gerald Mitchell will be joining our Chamber in September. I think you'll love him too. Columbus is in good hands. So for today, quite quickly, we're gonna work together to give you a window into our work since this crisis began and kind of what we're seeing. We're gonna offer some thoughts on where our organizations and our community might head in sort of the short, mid, and long term. And first, we want to give you quick introductions to our organizations so you can understand how we work separately and together. Marquette gave you a great window onto the Community Foundation. The analogy that we use a lot, Ben and I, and in our fields, is that United Way offers a community kind of an expert checking account for social services and human service needs. They raise money, they take it in, and they pay it back out. And they do a super job of evaluation and working with their partner agencies. Community Foundation is more of an expert savings account for a community. We certainly do grant making in the social service and human service realms as well, but we can do grant making in arts and education and city building and green space preservation and anything that our donors are passionate about that they can convince our board is charitable in the legal sense. Marquette shared that we are about enabling and promoting philanthropy. We talk about the fact that we are helping donors in our community become raging philanthropists in a way that improves their communities, both during and after their lifetimes. We've got a staff of 5. We have lots of different funds under our umbrella, some 300 different funds. They've been established by individuals, families, businesses, and other foundations to accomplish all kinds of charitable goals and leave legacies in lots of different areas, from donor-advised funds to endowments for several super important local organizations like River Center, Columbus Symphony Orchestra, the Library Foundation, Habitat, and the Youth Orchestra. Assets are right at $190 million. I will tell you, we hit 200 million for about 10 minutes right there in February and figured we'd wait till the end of March till we celebrated. We're gonna have to wait a little bit, I think, but we'll see. Our fiscal year will end at the end of September, and so far this fiscal year, people have contributed over $30 million in contributions to the Community Foundation. We've paid out $14 million in grants. Some 93% of our assets are either endowed or invested for the long term for the benefit of the community, and that's why to us size matters. It's an economy of scale that we offer through wise investing. So far through that investing, we have added some $50 million worth of net philanthropic value back to this community. So we are a recipient of donations. We're a grant maker, we're an investor, we're a community convener and a partner, we're a legacy builder, and we're an enabler and a listener and a dreamer. You hear us talk a lot about Smurf, which is a weird term. And if you think of the little blue guys, think of that term with an I in the middle instead. But those are sort of 5 types of capital that community foundations deploy to help people improve communities: social capital, moral capital, intellectual capital, reputational capital, and, oh yes, financial capital. So all together, my staff and our wonderful board are doing work that we think will strengthen this community for generations to come. We're thrilled to get to do it for you here today in partnership with United Way. So Ben, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Betsy, and thanks President Joe and Marquette for that great introduction. Greatly appreciate it, and it's awesome to be here and to be a new Rotarian here in Columbus, Georgia. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary, and it has been quite the eventful year. As Marquette said, this is my 3rd United Way, and I, just off the bat and coming here, I knew that I'd made the right decision, and that the community here is unlike any that I've ever been in, and really I think unlike any community, certainly of its size in the country, with the amount of philanthropic support that is out there in the community and that wraps itself around the community on a daily, weekly, monthly basis here. So it's just been an amazing experience coming here. There are 1,100 United Ways across the country. We last year ranked 91st in size in those United Ways, according to our revenue. And so we are punching a little bit above our weight here in the Chattahoochee, the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley. The 2 things that most people know United Way for are our fall campaign and our spring investment process. And so we have run a fall campaign every year for the last 70 years here in the Chattahoochee Valley. And last year we broke our all-time record of annual fundraising with $7.241 million. And that is great that we did that last year, because it's going to really be needed in the months and years ahead with the COVID pandemic. And then we invest that money back into the community through a community investment process every spring. And that process is volunteer-led with 70+ volunteers. We break into teams and assess the applications from all of our nonprofit partners across the community. We just wrapped that process up this year, and we were thankful to be able to make 53 grants to 25 different organizations across our community and our region. And those grants range in size from over $500,000 to below $10,000. And so we're very proud of that work. And we have a lot of United Way-led programming as well. Home for Good was mentioned. Betsy's on that steering committee, and they are working to end chronic homelessness, veteran homelessness, and general homelessness in our area. At any one time, there are around 200 homeless individuals in our community. And so the Home for Good staff is working with those folks on a daily basis to try and get them into housing, to try and provide the services that they need. We also have a 211 call center, which provides a great resource to the community, 300 resources within that database. You can call 211 at any time and get a person on the phone who can connect you with resources. That's been vitally important through the pandemic, to be able to get that assistance whenever it's needed. You can also text 898-211 and a little blurb about what your contact in 211 about, and someone will call you back and get in touch with you about what you're needing. We also have a volunteer center at United Way. We engage hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers on an annual basis in our corporations and our nonprofits. And we do a lot of great work there. And we have affinity groups that fall under the volunteer center. Our Women United group that puts on a big Power of the Purse luncheon every fall. And then our Emerging Leaders United, which is an under 40 group that gives $1 a day throughout the year. So a $365 commitment for each of those emerging leaders. And so very proud of that work as well. And then 2 new strategies coming online over the next couple of months. One of them has been in the community for over a year now, and that's the Basics of the Chattahoochee Valley. And we very recently received a grant from the Community Foundation to house a director of the Basics at United Way. And that strategy is about getting kids a great start in life. It focuses on the age 0 to 3 and about brain development and positive experiences within the home for those kids. And so that's one of those strategies. And then the other is community schools, which we're really, really excited about. And I'll talk more about in a little bit, but that involves placing United Way employees into our public schools. And we have 4 schools that we're targeting right now, but I'll touch on that a little bit more later.
We're hoping that those quick overviews give you a little bit of a sense of what our organizations normally do kind of on our best days. Since COVID-19 happened, of course, we've had to be flexible like everybody else in our entire world. The pandemic is demanding of our organizations a new kind of responsiveness and a new kind of collaboration. But I'll tell you, it's also creating possibilities for us to reinvent programs, to rethink the way we communicate with our donors and with our communities, the way we make our grants, and a way to see things with new eyes. We'll kind of separate out our remarks into things that we see that are sort of urgent and immediate needs, and intermediate needs and long-term needs. But through it all, I'll tell you, one of the things I heard early on in this crisis was that we were likely to see members of our communities that we've not really seen before, who haven't been visible. And boy, has that been true. And I'm hoping that through partnerships like the one that the Community Foundation and United Way are offering, our community is going to be able to respond better to people who need new and different kinds of help. And as we emerge on the other side of this crisis, we'll end up with a stronger community. So I'm going to let Ben talk a little bit about sort of where we have been in what has felt urgent and immediate since the middle of March. And then I'll jump back in. So head out, Ben.
Sure. So in mid-March, right when coronavirus hit, one of the first calls I received was from Betsy, and she said, "Hey, we are going to stand up a fund at the Community Foundation, and we would love for United Way to be partners in this fund, try and meet the needs of our vulnerable populations through this crisis that we knew was coming and was going to be bad and was going to really tax our community, and it turns out the entire world." And I said yes before she even got the last words out of her mouth. Of course, we would partner, and it's been an amazing journey since that point. The fund's purpose, as I said, is to gap fill for critical needs for vulnerable populations. And we decided very early on that that had to be the focus because of Maslow's triangle of needs. We are focused on the bottom 2 rungs, which are physiological needs. If you don't have food, water, shelter, it's very difficult to focus on anything else. So we have to focus on that, making sure folks are housed, clothed, and have stuff to eat. Food insecurity in Georgia is up 42% since the crisis hit. And so we're very glad that we focused the fund in on those basic needs very early on. And then safety needs as well come into play. And we've also made some grants to cover PPE for organizations in our area, as well as other safety needs. So it's been an amazing journey so far. And let me give you some numbers from the fund. To date, we've received 226 gifts, some of those extremely large. And we kind of talk about whether we should share the amount of fundraising we've done, but I'll go ahead and share that we have raised over $1.7 million for this fund so far. And that is just an amazing credit to this community and how amazing it has been to watch corporations, individuals, and foundations step up to the plate to provide these resources so that we can make grants out. And to this date, we've made 68 grants, and those have been to, I think, over 45 organizations at this point. So these are some large grants, some small grants. I've got a list of a few of our organizations. Most of them will be very familiar to you. Feeding the Valley, House of Time, Hope Harbor, Boys and Girls Club, St. Anne Community Outreach, Mercy Med, Chattahoochee Valley Episcopal Ministry, Easter Seals, Twin Cedars, Safe House, and the list really goes on and on. And you know, these grants have allowed some of these organizations to to keep going, whereas otherwise they may not have been able to serve the vulnerable populations with critical needs throughout this crisis. So it's been we're very proud to have been able to do this work. And we've also raised the profile of the fund, as well as provided a forum for information sharing through our community calls. And that has been another fantastic partnership. We started it out, I think our first call is on March 17th. And to date, we've had over 60 calls. We started out doing Monday through Friday calls, and then switched to 3 days a week. And we've recently gone to Wednesdays at 10 a.m. That information on how to call in is available on the Community Foundation website. We have a standing agenda that we use. We give a national update. Betsy welcomes everyone to the call. Then there's a national update. Then we move into economic sector and impact area updates. The mayor has been an amazing voice on these calls, Mayor Henderson, just providing a steady hand in leadership and a really uplifting message throughout the pandemic through those calls. Dr. Lewis with the school system has been an amazing supporter of the calls and is on every call. And we've had lots of other folks calling in on a regular basis. The health system CEOs, Melody Trimble of late has been on the standing agenda. Frank Shepard from Feeding the Valley is on there. And then lots of people get involved at the end of the call in our open forum. And that's where we've really seen some outstanding work being done, where folks will bring a need to the table and then someone else will jump in to help fill that need. And then one other thing on the calls that I've just been incredibly proud of is that throughout the over 60 calls, we have not had one negative word said. And this is public information, the calls. We've had nothing untoward. We've had nothing said that was negative in any way. And, we opened the call with kind of a call for positivity, and that call has been heated. So it's just been amazing to watch the community at work through these calls.
Thanks, Ben. I think you said how much we've given away from the fund, but you've got your paper in front of you and I don't. Sorry, you may have said it. Sorry.
You know what? I did not. I missed
so
that part.
If I can I think I can get to it. The grants from the funds. Okay, go, ma'am.
Yeah, I skipped that part. I'm sorry. $1,060,212 have been granted out of the fund so far. And the breakdown on the needs as well that we've served with those, 61% of that has been to healthcare, and 21% to food, 3% to child services, 6% to housing and shelter, and 9% to help organizations who are directly serving individuals that have utility needs and other personal needs.
Yeah, thanks for sharing
Thanks,
that.
Betsy.
No, that's fine. The only other thing that I would add to all of that is that our organizations have both waived any fees that we would normally take from working with a fund like this. We want 100% of this money going right back out in the community as quickly as it needs to. We are committed to continuing this work as long as it takes.
I did forget one other thing.
Oh, go. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So we started out with a big match from TSIS, a $100,000 match, and we closed that match out really quickly, and we were really happy about that. But now we have an AFLAC match still on the table. So if you give to the fund, up to $2,000 per individual is matched by AFLAC. So you give a $2,000 gift, it's really like you're giving a $4,000 gift. If you give a $50 gift, it's like you're giving a $100 gift. And so we're really grateful to TSIS and to AFLAC and really all our donors for the funds provided. But sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned those amazing gifts.
That's fantastic. No, and the only other thing that I'll lift up that's associated with this partnership is that at some point we realized that the grant making we were doing through the fund is for a specific set of organizations that are serving these vulnerable populations. But we know there are a lot of organizations in our community that all of us have invested in over the years and made them strong for lots of different reasons. And they're suffering through this pandemic. So we wanted to give a way for them to tell their stories and to let donors respond to those needs. And so also at the Coronavirus Response Fund page, which is, by the way, cfcv.com/coronavirus. You can see all the grants that Ben mentioned. You can donate to the fund. You can get the history, but you can also see a nonprofit impact assessment tool. Any nonprofit can complete this survey, and anybody in the community can can request beautiful PDF copies of these completed surveys. It's pretty easy to do. There's a button, you send an automatic email, and your auto response to your email has the PDF attached to it that has all the survey results. So you can kind of see what's going on at different organizations around the community. And I think it's sobering. But if any of you are on boards of organizations or work for organizations that need that way to tell your story, think about filling out the survey, get the PDF form. You can edit it down so it's just your 2-page story. Share it with your donors. We want this to be a tool for you. So it's all there, cfcv.com/coronavirus. A couple of other things that I want to mention, some work that we know of that's going around town. One, because it's a fund at the Community Foundation also, the Columbus Area Full Count Census Fund. If you had told me that we would need a charitable fund to encourage people to complete their census forms, I'm not sure I would have appreciated it, but it is vital that everybody in our community complete their census form. The numbers that are generated by the census determine the level of federal funding that our community will receive for years into the future. And right now we have unprecedented challenges to getting people to fill out those surveys. So if you haven't done yours yet, please go to 2020census.gov. But I'm also really wanting to acknowledge the donors who've contributed to this fund and the fantastic blue ribbon panel of marketing, PR, advertising experts who've stepped up, help do the work of this fund to get the word out about the importance of completing the census. I also want to tell you, and we talk about this in terms of urgent and immediate work, the opportunities for the advancement of racial equity in our community is maybe that's another segment of the population that none of us have been paying enough attention to. And it's become a real forefront of the topic locally and nationally. We see this as an opportunity. We've known, those of us who work in this space have always known about the levels of racial inequity in our community. And to be honest, it's hard to talk about. It's always been hard to talk about. By golly, it's less hard to talk about now. And it's more critical that we do it than it's ever been. So this is urgent for our organizations. I believe it's urgent for our community. Look for thoughtful opportunities to have conversations and educate yourself about the need to do it. And we want you to stay tuned, but this is both urgent and long-term. So I'm going to shift a little bit to sort of things that we see as both as intermediate, and I'm going to let Ben talk a little bit more about some of the things that they're standing up and seeing at United Way.
Sure. Thanks, Betsy. Well, we're coming up on the fall here. And so one way that we can deal with the immediate or the interim intermediate needs of folks in our community is through the United Way campaign. And as I said, we run a campaign every fall and then invest that money back into the community every spring. And it really provides the non-governmental community safety net. And so all of those grants that I talked about, the 53 grants to 25 organizations, are made possible through our campaign. We have a great team working on our campaign. We have 18 employees at United Way that are working extremely hard right now to prepare for a campaign like no other in a virtual environment. We have relied very heavily on special events and big rallies in the past, and all of that is off. And so, we are going to have as many virtual events as we can and adapt and shift and do things differently because of COVID. But at the end of the day, it's really about reaching out to donors and making sure folks know that we are still running our campaign and that we have to raise somewhere close to $7 million in order to keep gaps from opening up in our community. And so that's really the number one thing that you can do from a United Way perspective, certainly right now, is to make sure that, if you are a United Way donor, that you continue to give. We really appreciate it. We have 15,000 annual donors. We run workplace campaigns across hundreds of organizations in our community, and it's going to be a real challenge this year. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is going to be a very challenging campaign for us for lots of reasons related to COVID. But we are working hard. We have our campaign chair, Gwen Roth, this year, who is just amazing. She is the first African-American female campaign chair in the history of United Way, the 70-year history of our organization. We're incredibly proud about that. We have Mayor Henderson on our campaign cabinet this year, and lots of great leadership for our campaign. So while we feel great about it, we know that we need to get the message out in new and different ways this year about supporting the United Way campaign. I want to touch on community schools just for a minute here. Community schools is a fantastic national strategy that I was first exposed to when I was at the United Way in Asheville, and it involves placing employees of community-based organization leads, in this case United Way, into our area elementary schools. And we were fortunate enough to have our memorandum of understanding passed by the Muskogee County School Board on June 22nd that allows us to begin work this fall. We've gotten pretty significant grant funding to be able to put these employees into schools. We're starting at Dorothy Height. We're trying to raise funds right now to put a coordinator that will be shared between MLK and Brewer. And those three schools create a contiguous zone of really a target zone for the whole city to be working on. We've talked to the mayor about this, many stakeholders at the table already. We have a committee working on this, but the strategy is all about wrapping services around students and families in a very holistic approach to service provision within the school setting. And so there's a lot more to come on that, and also the basics as well. But I just wanted to say that we're excited to be bringing that, and there will be a lot more information coming your way in the near future. Just to touch on our impact areas very quickly, education, health, income, and basic needs are the traditional impact areas of United Way. And so all of the funds that we raise and invest back in the community go back into those impact areas. But more and more, I think we need to be more specific about our work in those impact areas. So instead of just education, I think of it as child well-being. So wrapping those holistic services around students and families. And instead of just income, it's economic mobility. Are you going to do better than your parents did? And unfortunately, in our area, the odds are that you might not. We are in the bottom 7% of economically mobile communities in the country. So that really needs to be something that we focus on and something that we work to change. And then access, we talk about health, but it's really access to overall health. The social determinants of health predict 80% of your overall health. While healthcare is critically important, your environment, what you eat, whether you smoke or not, these things are critically important to your overall health. And so it's an education process there as well to help people help themselves with their own health. And then of course the safety net that I've already talked about, where we need to provide that for the whole community through all of these organizations that are getting funds from the Coronavirus Response Fund as well as United Way grants.
It's a lot, guys. It's hard, and I'm looking at our time, and we've got to go quickly. I'll tell you that on the Community Foundation's radar are all the things that Ben mentioned, because we're seeing it kind of with new eyes, and a lot of our donors are really interested in how we can support child's brain development from birth to 5. But they're also interested in cultural arts, education, organizations that right now we know, like River Center and Springer, that we love and we depend on for improvement in our lives, but for tourism and talent attraction to our community. Right now, those guys have had to just sort of take a seat. They've all been doing really creative work to be as visible and relevant to the community as they can through this crisis. But as we start to emerge, we know they're going to have tremendous needs. So stay tuned for that. We have at the Community Foundation a local news and information fund. And again, funding news through nonprofits, it sounds crazy. But when you think about local news that you can trust, that is essential to the functioning of a democracy. So where you get your information matters. We've been able to stand up a fund that is funding through Report for America, both a journalist and a photojournalist at the Ledger for a year. We have the option to renew it in partnership with Report for America for a second year if everything is successful. Their beat is coronavirus recovery. So watch for those stories. And the third thing I'll mention is Columbus 2025. It's already been talked about, and I'm excited and feel daunted by assuming the chair role for that in January. But I'll tell you, the long-term work to reduce poverty and increase prosperity and improve the quality of life in our community will never be as relevant as it's going to be in the coming months and years. So Columbus 2025 is looking at ways to continue to do that work well, but also to look for ways to add a more intentional lens on equity and economic mobility. So stay tuned there. We've realized through this crisis that there are places in our community that don't have internet access, and we know that's essential. So the Community Foundation, United Way, and others are talking with the school district and the city to look for ways that we can leverage hotspots to help students do their schoolwork and others access the internet at different times throughout our communities. I want to leave a minute for questions, but I'll just tell you, we're interested in hearing from you. You know us, we're members of your club. Let Ben and me know if there are things you're seeing that you want to make sure our organizations know about. I think it's helpful, and we did this on a call a couple of weeks ago where we asked people to say, fill in the blank for us. I wish that our community could blank as we recover from this crisis. Think about that and what that might mean to you, and share it with Ben and me, please, or share it with either of us, and we'll share it with the other one. We are going through an unprecedented crisis, but we are determined to see it as an opportunity. We are moving through it. We're going to come out on the other side, and I say in the call all the time, the opportunity before us is to learn things that'll help our community be even stronger in the future. So with that, I think I'll hush and see if there are any questions in these last couple of minutes.
Hey, Betsy and Ben. Actually, Betsy, your closing remarks there are the perfect segue into a question we have from Grace Burton Edwards. She says, this season has been very challenging, but it has also created impetus for reimagining how we do almost everything. We get to choose how we come out of this and what our community will look like on the other side. What innovations do you see emerging that give you hope for the future?
I love, my friend Grace is so eloquent and graceful. I think for me, the whole evolution of the type of technology we're using right now to have this conversation has been stunning. And I know that we got to work on access for that. I hope that in the future we can be in rooms together again, because that's always the best way to communicate. But in the meantime, I'm excited about how we use technology to connect segments of our community that might not have been connected before. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I think that the equity piece that's been brought to the forefront through the pandemic, as well as all of the national attention surrounding the George Floyd killing, is a great opportunity for us as well. And Community Foundation and United Way are working together on another project right now called the Chattahoochee Valley Child Equity Collaborative. And we've received a pretty large grant to get some trainings around adverse childhood experiences going, and really start to look at how to change the trajectory for students and families in our community through an equity lens. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation around how to bring equity to communities, and especially communities of color in our region. So that's the innovation that I'm really looking forward to.
Great.
Yeah.
One more question. Of all of the grants and the resources that you've put into the hands of different organizations and people in need during this time, do you have any specific stories of the impact? Anything that really just touched your heart, or that you'd want to share with us?
Yeah, for me, it's been the student feedings. that have been just incredibly impactful, that we could fill the gap. The school system is actually not allowed to feed students during periods when they're not in school. And so gaps between regular school and summer school, the fund has stepped in and provided funding for Feeding the Valley to continue to feed students and families across our community. And so that's just been incredibly impactful to see that.
I think that's a great one. And I would also add, early on in the crisis, we did a grant to Mercy Med to help them do community testing. And they did it at Cascade Hills, which is great. There were some real good reasons they did it there. But then later on the community call, somebody mentioned how important that might be to do testing in South Columbus. Mercy Med was on the community call, as they always are, and said, boy, that's a great idea. Who could we partner with? People threw out several names. It happened. And then through the Coronavirus Response Fund, we were able to make grants to help testing happen in several locations throughout South Columbus. So to me, those kind of things are such a testament to the way Columbus has always done business. And I want all of us to remember that this is who we are. We work together well. We are caring people who want to build a better community together. It's now more important than ever that we widen that circle and work with groups that maybe we hadn't been as great at working with before. But we can do this. So I leave you with hope for that and that challenge.
That's great. Well, we appreciate both of you, your teams, your boards, your volunteers that are meeting these community needs in such a crucial time. President Joe, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Betsy. Ben, fabulous presentation and update for all that you guys are doing in our community. As I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk about all the initiatives that you're involved with, the different organizations and the individuals that you're working with, I'm recognizing all these Rotarians that are involved, and it gives me such a great sense of pride to know that our club is reaching out and doing our part to help take care of this community through this crisis. And I'm so pleased to be a part of this community and a part of this club through that. As you guys know, it's our tradition as an organization, as a club, to recognize our speakers by donating a children's book to the Columbus Public Library in their honor. And we're so pleased to be able to do that for you guys today. So the next time that you're browsing the children's section down there in the main library, I hope that you'll seek out and try to find the book that's been there donated on your behalf. For our members and guests that have joined us today, again, we thank you for your participation. There's going to be a replay of this call on Facebook immediately following the live broadcast. And then later on, we'll send a link for a YouTube broadcast as well. So for all the folks that were not able to join us in person, well, not in person, but live, we hope that they will follow up. And we hope that you'll share this to other community stakeholders, people that would be interested in this information. This is great stuff, and we need to make sure that we get it out to as many people as we can. As we leave, again, I will remind you, please make sure that you're wearing your mask. Please make sure that you're loving your neighbor, and please make sure that you're continuing to serve others above yourself. Let's get to work.